everybody, Cinema Sickness here with another weekly watch video for you, where we take a look at all the titles that I've recently been watching, and I briefly discuss them. So let's get right down to it, and take a look at everything I've checked out. And the first thing here I have to show you is something I don't really have much to say about once again, and that is Everybody Loves Raymond, the complete 5th season. As I've said from seasons 1 through 4, this is a fantastic sitcom. If you were a fan of sitcoms, this is definitely something I highly recommend checking out. Extremely funny, especially if you're married and you have children. You're going to definitely love this one. As somebody who has been married for a few years now, I totally relate to so much of this show. And as somebody who just had a child, I can relate a lot to that as well. So a fantastic sitcom. I've been saying that since season 1 that I've been watching. So definitely check this out if you are a fan of sitcoms. That's all I gotta say, but definitely something you must see. So then the next title I checked out was The Expendables, the extended director's cut. Now, of course, I've seen The Expendables already. Saw it in theaters. I've watched it a couple times since on my Blu-ray. I have the theatrical cut as well on Blu-ray. It is a fantastic movie. I am a huge fan of this. Tons of action. I love the fact they take all these just great action stars, shove them all into this one film, and just kick tons of ass. I love it. I have nothing bad really to say about this series. It's so much fun. Still just dying to see Expendables 3. Can't wait to check that out. Because I love Expendables. I love Expendables 2, which I'll talk about in a second. But Expendables 3, really looking forward to that. I love the lineup in that movie. So fantastic. So I definitely wanted to check the extended director's cuts. They did just recently pick this up, and it's all right. I could definitely tell the scenes that were extended, and I could also tell why they were cut down. They definitely cut the scenes down for pacing. There are some scenes in this director's cut that do seem to go on a little bit too long. Not that I feel it hurts the film necessarily. I'm not watching and thinking to myself like, wow, this really destroys the film. It's a horrible film now. Not necessarily, but you can tell at some parts where a scene seems to be going on just a little bit too long, and you're like, this is obviously one of the extended scenes. You're definitely going to recognize it also if you've seen the theatrical cut enough times. But yes, I can definitely tell why these scenes were cut down for the theatrical release. I get it. They didn't necessarily need to be that long, but does it really add anything to it? Not necessarily. There's a little intro in the beginning where Stallone says he thinks this cut with the extended scenes adds some extra heart to the movie. I don't know if I'd really say that. Maybe. I don't know. I guess it kind of gives you more of a glimpse into the personalities of each character, I suppose. But all in all, I would say it doesn't necessarily add to the film, but it doesn't necessarily hurt the film either. So it's all right. If you're a big fan of this movie, as I am, sure, it's worth picking up and checking out. But if you're just your average fan and you already have the theatrical cut, I wouldn't say the director's cut is anything you need to pick up, as it doesn't really add too much extra to the film, in my opinion anyway. But still, it's great. If you haven't seen The Expendables, whether it's the theatrical cut or the extended cut, it's definitely something you need to check out, especially if you love great action movies. And of course, since I watched the extended cut of The Expendables, I was totally in the mood to check out The Expendables 2. Definitely had to rewatch this one. This is actually only my second time seeing this movie, and I loved it just as much as the first time when I saw it in theaters. It's such again, another fantastic action film. I mean, look at that lineup. Just a super badass lineup. The fact that Van Damme is in this one now, love that. He plays a great bad guy in this movie. Just another huge fan of this. So great lineup, great action, another great story. Very solid too. It definitely did not, it didn't get weaker. It wasn't like this was fantastic and then, well, the sequel was okay but not as good. No, I would say solid sequel, definitely fantastic. So again, if you're an action junkie, check out The Expendables 2 and The Expendables. And then go see Expendables 3 eventually. So the next thing I checked out, I can't physically hold up and show you, as I did watch my ultraviolet copy of it, and that is Birth of the Living Dead, which is the Night of the Living Dead documentary. Very well done, very enjoyable. If you're a big fan of The Night of the Living Dead, which is just such a fantastic horror movie, one of the best horror movies out there, if not the best zombie horror movie out there, absolutely love that film. It is a classic for a reason. This is a great documentary. You definitely should check it out. Though I would say the only negative thing about it is the fact that if you are a big fan of Night of the Living Dead, you're already going to know a lot of the history, and you're going to know a lot of the backstory and what went into making it, and all kinds of little tricks they did, and just things like that, all kinds of behind the scenes sort of stuff. You're already going to know all this trivia and all this history. And I would say I didn't really learn too much new. I learned a few new things here and there. There's something that I didn't know about. It's not like everything I saw in this documentary I absolutely knew, but I would say that in the end, it wasn't just like a load of new information like some recent documentaries I've been watching where I've learned all kinds of new stuff about some of my favorite films. Not necessarily in this case. Again, it's a lot of information that I've heard over the years already because I've seen many documentaries that people have personally done, or just little kind of like side documentaries I've seen on Night of the Living Dead. So I already had some idea of kind of what went into making this movie. So again, a lot of stuff I already knew, but a few new things I didn't. And even though I already knew a lot of stuff, it still was a great documentary. I would say, even though you might not learn a ton of new things that you didn't already know about Night of the Living Dead, I'd have to say that if you are a fan, it is certainly worth checking out. It did definitely have a lot of a lot of great information. It was very well put together. It's just a really well done documentary that I would say definitely check out if you are a Night of the Living Dead fan or just a horror fan in general. It is something to see. So definitely check out Birth of the Living Dead. So then the wife and I checked out We're the Millers. This was another great comedy. Really enjoyed this one. Would I say I was blown away by it? Not so much, but it was pretty funny. All about our main character here. He's a drug dealer, ends up getting kind of mixed up with this big bad like drug boss, and ends up having to take some drugs over from the Mexico over into the U.S. border. Ends up being a lot more than he expected, and getting into a lot more trouble, and it being a lot more of a hassle than he expected. Very funny outcome. I would say though the ending of the movie you're gonna definitely see coming. In fact, I'm watching it, and bit of a spoiler here, so sorry, spoiler, but I'm watching this, and as the movie's progressing, I turn to my wife and I say, I bet you any amount of money at the end of the movie, they all become a big happy family. And my wife was like, that they wouldn't do that. And I was like, I bet you it happens. Sure enough, that's how this movie ends up. They're a nice big happy family at the end of the movie, which pretty cheesy, but it works. It's fun, especially with the way these characters are. It's kind of nice to see them as a family. You kind of want to see them as a family at the end of the movie, just because, they all have their issues, but they all kind of come together. It's pretty nice. So definitely a funny comedy. If you're into comedy, especially modern day comedies, check it out. I wouldn't say it was anything above and beyond. It wasn't anything amazing. It was one of the best comedies I've ever seen. But all in all, it was decent. And again, if you're into modern day comedies, it is something I'd recommend checking out. Then I watched a fantastic film with The Book Thief. Really enjoyed this one. A beautiful story. It takes place all in just Nazi Germany, about this girl who her mother is a communist, so she gets her children and sends them to this German family to protect them because she has to go into hiding. Her brother unfortunately ends up dying, so she's left alone with this family, and just I don't want to say craziness, but just everything she has to go through while stuck in Nazi Germany. I mean, everything from just the war and the way the Nazis treat other people, and all the horrible things she has to see. The fact that she doesn't have a mother now because her mother had to go into hiding because he was a communist, and just all the horrible things. She ends up really getting into books, loving books, and of course with Nazis, all the crazy book burnings. She ends up reading some things she necessarily shouldn't, and that's kind of why she's got the book thief, because she actually ends up stealing some books. She not only steals a book from a pile of books that were set on fire, but she ends up stealing some books from the Burgermeister's, what they call it, from the Burgermeister's house, and she's really into reading books, steals a whole lot of books, thus the name of the movie. But again, very beautiful story, very well done. Really enjoyed this one. I would definitely recommend checking it out. If you just want to see a really good drama, definitely see this. And of course, Jeffrey Rush right there was fantastic in this. I'm a big Jeffrey Rush fan, so thought he was great in this movie. He plays a really great character. So definitely check out The Book Thief if you just want to see a great drama. And then I watched the biography of Saturday Night Live. This was fun. This here, it goes a little bit into the history of Saturday Night Live. I mean, it does certainly talk about the history of it, but it also really focuses on kind of like a sort of a week in the life of Saturday Night Live, and how how Saturday Night Live is put together. Everything from writing and scripting and practicing and setting up stages and all that stuff. It definitely goes into kind of like, it shows you again the weekly process of how Saturday Night Live is put together. Apparently, this is the first time ever cameras have been allowed into like the process of putting together a live show. So pretty cool to see that. Plus, like I said, it does go into the history of Saturday Night Live, which is definitely interesting. So I would recommend checking this out. If you're a Saturday Night Live fan, definitely see it. If you're a fan of the Biography series, definitely see it. Not much more to say about it than that. It's just the biography of Saturday Night Live. It is what it is, but it is good. Then I watched a movie that I pretty much knew exactly what I was getting myself into in this one. I wasn't expecting very much, and in the end, it didn't offer very much, and that is Larry the Cable Guy, Health Inspector. Like I said, knew pretty much what I was getting myself into when I watched this. I thought this is just going to be just probably garbage and pretty ridiculous, and for the most part it was. Though I would say I've seen worse movies. A lot of people were just, when I posted on like Instagram and Facebook and stuff that I was watching this, people were like, why are you watching such garbage? What is wrong with you? And although I would agree it was more or less garbage, I would say that I've seen worse. This is not the worst film I've ever seen. It wasn't as bad as some other stuff I've seen in the past, but it wasn't good either. It wasn't much better than some of the other garbage I've seen in the past. So I wouldn't really recommend this one. I mean, you got to know what you're getting yourself into. Even if you're a Larry the Cable Guy fan, I'm sure you probably still know what you're getting yourself into. It's pretty ridiculous, pretty cheesy, but not necessarily in a good way. Can't really say I enjoyed it too much, but at the same time, I didn't hate it. I didn't watch this movie and just was completely turned off by it. I guess it, for the most part, kept me entertained, but all in all, I wouldn't recommend checking it out. My actual biggest downfall of this isn't the movie in itself. Again, the movie I can deal with. It's just the fact that a lot of gay jokes in it. I think I would count at least like 3 or 4 gay jokes in it. Even the use of the word fag. It was written on a billboard, but regardless, it was still used. And it was Larry the Cable Guy who, was the one who put it up on the billboard. And I was like, so a little bit of too much gay bashing in this one. Wasn't too thrilled about that. That's not too cool. I'm actually really surprised. What year was this done? 2006. Yeah. I'm really surprised that even made it in. I mean, I know nowadays, like, if you put some gay bashing in your movies, you're going to get a lot of flack for it. But even in 2006, I would think that, that was kind of on the cusp of like, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. But, a little bit too much in here. That was my main downfall with this was a bit too much gay bashing, even though it wasn't constantly thrown in. It wasn't so much in your face and wasn't like really up front with it. It was throughout the movie, and it did bug me a bit. So that was my main issue. But otherwise, it is what it is. That's the best way to describe this. It's a Larry the Cable Guy movie. It is what it is. You know what you're getting into with this one. If you expect a lot out of this, I don't understand that. So anyway, Larry the Cable Guy, Health Inspector, I can't really recommend it. Don't see this one. But then I watched an actual good movie with Enough Said. This was a great romantic comedy. Really enjoyed this one. And it's really nice to see Julia Louis-Dreyfus and James Gandolfini in a really nice role like this. I like both of them. They're both decent actors. I enjoy them, but I've never been like just huge fans of them in the sense that I never really thought of them as like amazing actors. I just like, yeah, they're good, they're okay, but that's about as far as my my liking of them went. But after watching this one, I definitely gained a lot more respect for them. They were fantastic in this movie. Really enjoyed them together. They had fantastic chemistry, played their characters just to a T, just really, really well done. You got so wrapped up in the story, you get really just into these characters, and you feel for them when they're struggling in their relationship. So very interesting. I love I love this scene. Wow. There's one scene in this movie that just really just makes you feel uncomfortable, and it's where I don't want to give too much away, but let's say that I really don't want to spoil this movie for you, but all right, I'm just gonna say there's a very uncomfortable scene in this movie. You're gonna know where it is. It's where something gets found out that's been trying to a certain person has been trying to hide for some time now. It's very uncomfortable, but very, very funny at the same time scene. So this was great. again, I would say romantic, romantic comedy, although a lot more. I mean, maybe I don't want to say comedy. Maybe I say romantic drama. I'd say this is a lot more heavy on romance and drama than it is so much comedy. Maybe a couple funny moments here and there, but I wouldn't say it's very heavy on the comedy. Definitely more of a romantic drama, I would say, but very well done. This is something to definitely check out. I wouldn't say this is a chick flick. I would say this is definitely something for men and women to watch. Very, very well done. Definitely see enough said. I loved it. And then the last title I checked out, unfortunately, I can't say I loved, and that was Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters, the unrated cut. I went in this movie thinking maybe something along the lines of the Brothers Grimm. I enjoy the Brothers Grimm. I think that's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. It's campy, it's cheesy, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. And I was thinking that's what we're gonna get here. We're gonna get kind of like the Hansel and Gretel form of the Brothers Grimm. I was really excited to see that. We didn't get that here at all. We just got a really cheesy, but not in a good way, movie with acting that wasn't very good either. Every time they curse in this movie, that was one of my main problems with this movie, is the fact that they cursed so much throughout this movie. And, I have nothing wrong with cursing throughout a movie. It's fine by me. It's the fact that every time they did it, it felt wrong. It felt forced. It's like listening to like a teenager curse, where he's just doing it to sound cool and hip. Like he's just throwing the F word, and he's fucking shit and all this stuff all over the place. At times when it's like, was that really necessary? Did you have to say fuck? Like why did you say that then? Why was the word shit really necessary in that sentence? It wasn't. It for me really just brought the movie down a couple notches. It seemed really, really forced, especially for the time period. It just seemed like, I don't think you'd be cursing quite that much back then. If they wanted to throw a few in, I would have been like, all right, that's fine. But it's the fact that there's just so much of it. It just seems so, I guess I would say inappropriate. Just not inappropriate because I didn't get anything wrong with curse words. Inappropriate because it just seems like it didn't really fit this sentence. Like it just seems unnecessary, not needed, and just I couldn't get past it. Every time I heard him curse, I just cringed because he was just in such a bad spot to be doing it. I thought the action was mediocre. I thought the acting was mediocre. I thought the story was mediocre. I thought the story had a good idea. The premise of this movie, it's a good idea. The story, it's a smart idea. It could have been something great, but unfortunately, I think it was just executed poorly. So Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, I just couldn't get into it. I didn't like it. It wasn't my thing. Especially at the point where they ended up going back to like their house and stuff. It just seemed like the story was kind of like, all right, this is all right, and then just kind of went like, oh, now it took this weird twist and it's going downhill. No, they're well, I don't want to give too much away if you want to see this movie, but yeah, it just didn't do it for me. I thought this movie could have been so much better, could have been so much more interesting, and instead it just wasn't any of that. So Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, I would say stay away. I wouldn't say see this movie. I personally didn't like it. I've heard some people say they really enjoyed this movie, so to each their own. So I would say if you're really interested in checking this out, this is a movie you've wanted to see for some time now, you're just really intrigued by this movie, you want to check it out like I did, fine, see it. I mean, at least kept me somewhat entertained. I wasn't like bored by the movie, I just didn't really care for it that much. So I would say if it's something you really want to see, sure, check it out. Maybe you'll get a kick out of it. Maybe you won't, I don't know, but all in all, I'm not really going to recommend it because I just thought it was a pretty piss poor movie. A good idea, could have been, it had been executed a lot better, could have been a great film, but unfortunately, executed poorly, and just all around, I did not enjoy this film. So I would say, stay away unless you really, really, really want to see it, and you're curious. So there you go, guys. That is everything that I've recently checked out. Watched a lot of great stuff. A few crappy titles. Larry the Cable Guy, Health Inspector, not so good. Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, not so good. But everything else was pretty decent, and I'd recommend it. So anyway, guys, like I always say, if you like this video, please give me a like. If you're not already subbed, please do. And if you're not already over at cinemasickness.com, head on over there, check it out. Lots to see there, a lot more than just these videos going on, all kinds of things, all kinds of up-to-date information on like deals and stuff going on, and a lot going on with Team Sickness as well. Definitely check out those guys. And of course, while you're there, be sure to click on that shop tab and purchase yourself a Cinema Sickness sticker and or a Cinema Sickness button. I would really appreciate the support. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.